Morning, everyone. All right, so I'm doing a little weekly review on how my week went. Much less about what price did, but more about how I reacted to price and the trades that I took. Because this is a pretty important week for me, and I really want to talk about it. But so far, the people I've talked to about, it's like the things that happened this week to me, and a lot of people just don't really understand how difficult it can be sometimes to, maintain control and sobriety in the chart as an executioner. But let me just talk about it. So we opened up on Sunday, and my bias was higher. And when we opened up, when I was looking at the week, I don't really do weekly analysis, but after Monday there was red news. So after Monday traded, I had a consolidation, and so I had two draws. We were inside the previous day's range, high and low, and so I knew that we would likely run down to one of these levels and then hit the other level next. Since I was favoring higher time frame bullishness, I would have preferred to see sell side hit, and I did make a video talking about this on FOMC morning, so we let Tuesday's price action play out. And then I had these relative equal lows, and I did Wednesday morning say that during FOMC or before FOMC, right before the 9:30 opened up, I wanted to see a run down into the sell side liquidity and then run up to buy side liquidity, and I had drawn it out just like this. And this is actually exactly what happened. Because FOMC was on Wednesday in the afternoon, that's when the news was. I wouldn't be able to trade Wednesday morning. There was no news on Tuesday, so I wasn't able to trade Tuesday. I was only able to trade Monday, Thursday, and Friday. And Monday, there was no trade. There was a trade that I saw, and I'm pretty sure I had posted it and talked about it. But, however, I don't know why that's there. The trade on Monday, when we dipped down beneath discount at 10:30, we were still in a discount for the day. This was ahead of the news. No, sorry, it was down here at 9:40. When 9:40 came and traded beneath these short-term lows, this was ahead of the news. And so when the news delivered, we already delivered the buy-side liquidity, and then there wasn't really much else to look for afterwards. If I actually go back to the 1-minute chart, we can drop down and see. You see that I had this gap here and could have maybe looked to trade maybe this inverse fair value gap after we ran out the short-term low. But you see it was ahead of news, so I wasn't able to. And after news hit, there wasn't really another opportunity to find an entry that I would have been comfortable with the risk to reward. So like if I would have had entered all the way up here, my stop loss would not have been all the way down there. Okay, it would have had to have an insanely huge take profit, and it wouldn't have hit. So there was no trade on Monday. Let me now go back to Thursday, which is really the day where I was hoping the trade would form. And I had talked about this in a video that I recorded ahead of time. I talked about my draw being sell side, price coming down to sell side, and then tomorrow, the next day, delivering towards buy side. And when I got up in the morning and I saw that we had came shy of buy side around 9 in the morning, when I got on chart, we were retracing. I was very excited for a trade, so I measured the low to the high of the day, okay, and I waited for price to get into a discount. And I was recording too, and I was saying that basically we could see price continue going higher, and then I could look for shorts. But with the bias, I would think it'd be better if price goes to discount first. And so we did get into discount. Okay, we initially ran this 5-minute short-term low, so we ran this one out, and then price failed to displace. It was also outside of discount. Part of the displacement was into the premium. And then again, we had another short-term low, this time more in a discount. The displacement with the fair value gap I used to enter was completely in discount. Okay, but then one more time we came back lower. Okay, and entered this larger fair value gap here. And then price very quickly and efficiently ran to buy side liquidity. So let me show the Let me. I don't want to get. I want to get off the replay. Let me go to the 1 minute chart. Okay, so this is the trade that I had actually taken. Let me show the executions. All right, so entered right on this candle on a limit order, and then I got taken out by a stop loss. Okay, I did not put my stop to break even. Now I have a rule where after 15 minutes, I need to put my stop at break even, which would have been at 33. I would need to put my stop at break even. So this trade should have been a break even trade, but I didn't put my stop at break even because recently it's happened often where after 15 minutes, price comes back to break even and it works. Before, I used to do this mainly because before I was going for 1-to-1 RR or 1.5, even sometimes less than 1. So break even stop would actually help me because in some cases I'd actually lose less than I would basically prevent myself, like if I make this trade, if I win this trade, let's say it's 25 points, I make 25 points, but if I lose, then I lose 30 points. If I had a break even stop, let's say that trade would have lost, I would have lost 30 points, but if it ends up going to break even, it doesn't lose, but it ends up going to profit, I would have still basically pocketed more money than if I would have had won because I prevented myself from losing $30, if that makes sense. But when you have higher RR, like something with 4 RR, everything changes. All of a sudden, your break-even stop, if it ends up working, you're not just giving up what you're risking or less or around there. You're giving up, I'd be giving up 4.18 times that risk. So I'm basically losing 4 times more money, well, sort of, than I would have if I would have just kept the stop loss where it was, and the trade would have lost if it happened to lose. Sorry. So that's why on such a big trade like this, I felt like if I put my stop, and I hadn't taken a trade yet this week, I felt like it wasn't worth putting my stop to break even. It was worth holding on to it and seeing if it was going to end up winning. Ended up not winning, and then it worked. Even though when it worked, see, there's still nowhere where I would have been able to enter. Okay, I would have needed to see a fair value gap or an inverse fair value gap, and this would have been the fair value gap at 11.05. There was no entry back into it, so I wouldn't have even been able to find a trade, even if I had waited not taking this trade or continued looking for another trade. But still, the move that I wanted still happened. So in my head, I'm like, well, I was right on what price wanted to do, but I didn't make any money, and I was fine with that loss. Okay, that was always the next day. So after hitting the buy side liquidity, this was an accident. After hitting the buy side liquidity, brought me to the next day. So if we, and this is where things really, let me just take the executions off. This is where things really got tough for me. So we had, let me take these off. Okay, so we had price failed to go above previous day high. We had already expanded FOMC on Thursday, and we're Friday, and well, it's appropriate to see a retracement into the week. So we've been trending higher inside the entire day. Okay, so if I just look at the day, we've been going higher. We have lots of relative equal lows. We've tried to come down and sweep some of them. We've rejected higher. Okay, so right now, it doesn't matter what I think, how I'm gonna justify, price going lower. All I do is I measure low to high. Okay, 50%, we're above it. So I'm only looking to sell. 9:30 opens up, and I just wait for the first 5-minute short-term high to get ran out. And that happened very quickly. We ran up above this 5-minute short-term high, and then price went lower. Okay, very simple. I would have wanted to get in on a displacement after the 5-minute short-term high. Okay, the problem is obviously you can probably see that price took a very long time before actually hitting. So my take profit rules are after 3 RR, you go for the first 5-minute short-term high. Instead of that low, instead of that low, I went for this low. So at about 64 points, and price ran down just about 55 points. So I was like less than 10 points away from take profit. It was a really close trade. I almost won this trade. And what happened is it came all the way back to break even. Since I had already taken a loss this week, and since this trade had almost won, it was not a huge trade also. I felt like it was not as worth holding on to it with the stop loss where it was. I felt like it was safer for me, for my emotions, to put it to break even. Okay, but this is where I doubted myself, and I only put it to break even when at the 958 candle, when I saw price really running back higher. Now my rules say after 15 minutes, do put your stop to break even, but I explained how that was a rule that I had carried over from previous models where I was working with lower RR, and it's just something that made me feel more safe and comfortable. But with bigger RRs and with more consistency, I just feel like it's just not worth it, you know, because and I was right. I mean, I got so emotional when this happened, when this 958, you can see with the executions. When I entered right here, okay, and I saw this almost win, I was a little happy. I was like, wow, this is going to be an easy day. It's going to be an easy trade. It's going to hit almost instantly. Okay, it retraced a little bit, found resistance on the first, on this volume imbalance. Okay, and then we ran down one more time very quickly. This happened very, very quickly, and then we ran up very quickly again. And now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm not too sure about this. So I re-entered because I was confident that this would win. I really was. I was telling myself that, there's no reason why this trade shouldn't win, and that I got rid of it because I was scared, and it's better if I just assume. Like, I thought of it this way. Let's just say I would have gotten in and the trade would have lost right away. I wouldn't have felt any different. I would have been like, whatever, it's a losing trade, move on. And so I was basically saying the same thing. I assumed the same amount of risk, and I said, you know what, let me just go through with it. Let me hold the trade. I was going to put my stop loss here and then leave the chart. I was about to just leave the chart. But as it started to run down and then run down, run all the way back up, I just got rid of it, and I said I was paying way too much attention to this trade. I wasn't able to leave the chart. My eyes were glued to the screen, and I wasn't able to do anything else. And I was just looking at every little tick, every little up and down, and just wanting it to see it go lower. And as soon as I got rid of it and it started to really go down, then I got even more emotional. And then I'm like, fuck, why did I get rid of it? I should have held on. It's working now. I'm gonna miss out. And then it came all the way back, and I was a bit relieved, and I saw as this candle was forming and it was at the high near my stop loss, I was like, okay, now I kind of want this to lose. And here's the dangerous part, where now you say you want it to lose when you're out of the trade. Like, why? You're out of the trade. Who cares what price does now? If your model isn't there, then it doesn't matter. The thing, my model was there, but because I didn't have what it took to hold on to it, because I had messed with my stop loss too many times, and entered and got back in and doubted myself too many times. Now all of a sudden it was an endless cycle of doubt, and I needed validation and reassurance to make sure that I did the right thing. And when I wasn't seeing it actually go to stop loss, then I remember right at 10:11 I said, okay, if it comes back, I'm going to enter. At 10:10 too, I was like, I should just re-enter. Like, it seems like it could still work. I should just re-enter. Like, yesterday I held on to this trade and it just ended up not working, but who knows, maybe this one will work. I should do like what I did yesterday. Okay, I think it's worth it. And then 10:11, 10:12 came. It came one more time very quickly, and I didn't have time to get in. And then price started going very quickly down to my take profit. And as I was seeing this, I was so disappointed. In the moment, I was so emotional. Throughout this entire price action lower, I just wanted to press the button to sell. I just wanted to get in and make profit. And then even once this worked, I started looking for reasons to buy. I was on my phone. I had gotten off my computer, when this started to hit. And I was on my phone and I was like, oh, maybe now I can actually buy. Let me look for a 5-minute short-term low. And so I was doing all these things, and then I'm like, okay, even if my model's not there, maybe I can find some other reason to buy. And I even had that thought in my head, and I haven't had that thought for one day this year. Like, this is the first time this year, almost halfway through the year, where I think I need to do something different than my model to make up for what I could have won. It's not even what I lost. I didn't lose anything this day. It's what I could have won if I hadn't put my stop to break even. If I had done just like yesterday and just like I had literally gotten up from my screen, went to my bed, and just lied in my bed and just let this play out. If I had done like that, if the power would have cut, if I would have just closed my computer, whatever, walked away, this would have worked, and I would have woken up or came back to the computer $1,000 richer. In my currency, it would have been a band. But instead, I just I made like $40 that day. Because I did take a little bit of profit when I closed the trade, but still, it's not really profit. It's more, I'm not really counting it. But still, right? It was scary. I was able to walk away and close the chart. That's what I did. When I started seeing this run down and hit profit, I immediately closed the chart because I knew I was not in the state to continue trading. And that's experience. A lot of people in the beginning won't understand. And I talked to this, how it felt, to my brother. I've talked this to my friend, and it's just not the same. They just don't understand. It's like they hear what I have to say, but they don't really understand because they've never actually been in this position where they're almost driven to destroy themselves, kind of like kill themselves almost by doing something they shouldn't, by doing something stupid in the chart. And this is what I wasn't going to do. I was trying to think of other reasons I could buy and just make up for what I could have won. And that's when you end up blowing your account, when you get emotional like that. So yeah, this was a very hard week, but it is what it is. I could have came out with a lot of money this week, just off this one trade. In fact, even in the future, as I grow into a better trader and I can hold it for a bigger range, I could have held it for even more and taken more partials and got even more out of this trade, right? And it's just encouraging too. Like, now that I'm looking at this from a place where I'm more grounded and less emotional, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, this is encouraging. Trades like this could turn into bigger trades more often. And I'm still profitable this year. I'm still making good RR and impressive percentages on the account. Okay? So even I could stop for the year right now. And with what I've gotten so far on my live account, I could present it to people and they would be shocked. On a year where the NASDAQ has been down 30%, I made 40%. It's incredible. It is. But I want more. And I just have to be patient. Next week, another trade like this could happen. I could be on that trade. I could take it. And I'll forget all about this loss. I'll make 4 times not this loss, break even. I'll forget about this loss. I'll forget about this break even. It might just take a week. It might take 2 weeks. It might take a couple of days. But the next trade is always going to be there as long as these markets are printing candles. And it's easy for me to say that. It was very easy for me to say that before. And yet, for some reason, I'd still let my emotions get in the way and I would still do something stupid. Alright, so, and this is why it sounds so easy, what I have to say, to just not do. So simple to follow. But when your emotions get in the way, everything is different. And everybody has different emotions and will react differently. Like a different trader may not react the same way as I reacted to the current week's price action. Right? He might not have taken this trade. He might have taken the exact same trade and the exact same thing might have happened, but he might have reacted differently. Okay? But the thing I realized, the important thing this week, is that from now on, what I'm going to do is when I take a trade, I'll set my stop loss, my take profit, and that's it. Until I'm at the point where I can take partials, which is when I reach a contract size, 10 micros. Until I reach that point, I ain't taking partials, and I'm just gonna set it my take profit and my stop loss, and that's it. Nothing changes. I set an alert for the take profit. I close my chart when I take the trade. That's it. I walk away. Right? I'll watch it for the first 10-15 minutes, and as soon as I get to that point where I feel like, oh, I like what I'm seeing, I want to see more of this, because I do that often in a trade. I try to commentate, and then I start to fall in love with certain ideas, and if those don't happen, then I associate it with that being bad. But the truth is that once I get into a trade, it doesn't matter what price does. It doesn't matter if price goes up, down, sideways, to the left. out of your screen, does a 360 spin, and then comes back into your screen. It doesn't matter what it does. What matters is, did you follow your rules before entering the trade, and are your take profit and stop loss set correctly, and are you going to respect them? And so I'm going to remove the break even rule, and just because I can see how much more emotional it makes me. Like, I'd much prefer just take a loss and have a break even trade on something over 3 RR and end up winning. Okay. But anyways, that's really it for this week. Yeah. Enjoy the day. Good luck next week.